Good afternoon, bonjour, and buenos dias. I'm Aladia Sedawi, the Chief of Energy at the Regional Commission of Western Asia. I have the honor to moderate this side event. This side event hosted by our sister organization, the UN DESA, at the SDG Pavilion, and it intends to look at how together we can work in enhancing synergies and addressing the trade-offs between the water and energy sectors. The event is also under the umbrella of the Sustainable Water and Energy Solutions Network, for those who are not familiar with this global network, established by DESA in order to support how we can share best practices cross-region, but also at the national level and globally, at the technical level, but also at policy level. And I had the opportunity also to share from my region, but also to see how we can learn from best practices, specifically when it comes to the sustainable transition, but also how to renewable energy efficiency linked to the access to water can be all in a way interlinked at the technical level, but at the policy level, as indicated in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The side event is within the COP28 hosted in Dubai, our host, United Arab Emirates. Thanks for hosting us. It intends to look at how we can advance the climate agenda, both adaptation and mitigation, and obviously this means how we enhance synergies and address the trade-offs between the two sectors. We have 1 hour and a very interesting panel. If you allow me first to present my panel before giving the floor one by one, because they do have presentations but also interventions from their perspective. I will start by Mr. Gonzalo Sáenz de Miera, and sorry for my pronunciation, Director of Climate Change and Alliances Iberdrola in Spain. We have also Mr. Alfredo, as you said, Vela. So Alfredo Vela, he's the president Azazuca. Sesqua. My Spanish is not as well. Guatemala, this was my Spanish. Guatemala, and happy to have you with us today. And Ms. Camila Granco, she's the Economic Officer at our sister organization, Latin America, ECLAC. Nice having you with us. And Ms. Jessica Obeid, she is the co-founder, New Energy Concert from Lebanon, from the Arab region, ESCWA region. And happy we're having you with us. Mr. Luis Miguel Paez, he's the Executive President, UNELA. And Mr. Fernando Alandes, he's the Deputy Manager Director of Canal de Isabel II, Comunidades in Madrid, Spain. Nice having you all with us, and I think we would start by Mr. Gonzalo. Please, if you have, I think, from your place. And I just want to say, if I may, since we would have an interactive panel for 1 hour, if you just look at from your perspective and the business model that you will present from your country or organization perspective, how we can look at the address the challenges, but in a way also to bring them as opportunities to address enhance the synergies between the two sectors. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. Congratulations to you and DESA for organizing such an interesting event, and thank you very much for inviting us. I have 6 minutes, so I would like to share with you 6 messages. First message, we are a global energy company. So we invest a lot in renewables, and we use water. This is Iberdrola. So first message, we are facing several crises at the same time. Climate crisis, energy crisis, water crisis, biodiversity crisis. All these crises have a same origin, an energy model based on fossil fuels, and a same solution, moving from fossil fuels to renewables. First message. Second message, we are seeing a technological revolution of green solutions. So renewables today are the most competitive way to produce electricity all around the world. Batteries and heat pumps will be competitive with fossil fuels in just 2 or 3 years, we think. And green hydrogen needed to decarbonize, hard-to-abate sectors will be competitive in 7-8 years. And this is a big change. Third message, this transition from fossil fuels to renewables is going to be good for people, and it's going to be good for the planet, and it's going to be good for water resources. Why? First thing, it's going to be good for climate change, because climate change, the origin of climate change is fossil fuels. 80% of the CO2 emissions come from burning fossil fuels. So this is an advantage. If we move to renewables, it's good for water consumption, because renewable energies consume much less water than fossil fuels. It will also be good for energy security, because we don't have to rely on imported energy with the problems that may rise as we are seeing now. And it may be good for economic and prosperity, because this is cheaper energy and will imply a lot of investment in a lot of countries. Fourth message, moreover, water plays a very important role in the power sector, in the electricity sector. Why? Because we have hydropower. Hydropower represents something around 30% of the renewable energy in the world, and will play a fundamental role in the future. No with new dams, because new dams have a lot of environmental impact. However, pump storage, connected existing dams are going to be a very valuable resource for an energy system based on renewables. The problems with renewables is their variability. And if you have hydro and pump storage, from Canal de Isabel II, it's very flexible energy that can be a complement to renewables. Fifth message, in Iberdrola, we are really committed to this agenda. We are committed to climate change. We want to reduce zero emissions in 2030. So we want to generate all our energy from renewable sources. We are only investing in renewables and networks. And we are only investing in renewables and networks because it's good for the planet, but it's good for people because it's cheaper energy. We are committed because we have an objective of zero impact on biodiversity for 2030. That is one of the other. And we are committed because we have an objective for water use to reduce 50% of our water use in 2030. So, as a final message, the integration of water and energy solutions are key to ensure a sustainable development, a real sustainable development. We are making progress, but not at the necessary speed. And to move forward, we need two things. Policies, you were mentioning policies, are key to move things in this way. And the second thing is alliances, working together. Firms, we can play an important role. Governments can play an important role, environmental NGOs, but we have to work together to move into this direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your commitment, and thank you very much also for the recommendation that you provided. Maybe we can follow up next with Mr. Alfredo Vela. I think you have a presentation on from Guatemala perspective. If the technicians can put on the screen, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alfredo Vila from the Sugar Association of Guatemala. We are 10 sugar mills in the country. We found the Guatemala Sugar Association in 1957. If you want to have an idea how old is the organization, that was the year I was born. Some time before, we thought that we need to do bigger things and more to have more impact. So we create our social arm, Fundazúcar. We have in Fundazúcar education programs, health programs, and community development programs. Then in 1992, we created Senjicaña. That's our cane investigation center. We have created many varieties of cane, and now our fields have 70% of Guatemalan sugar cane. That's very important for our economic sustainability. In 1994, we found Expogranel. We export 60% of our sugar. We produce 2,700 metric, 2,700,000 metric tons of sugar. And in this terminal, we can move more than 2,000 tons per hour. That's one of the most efficient centrals in the world. In 2010, we create the private Climate Change Institute. I think that's still been the only private climate change institute in the world. That's a very, very good improvement of our organization. And in 2022, our newest organization is the Innovation Hub. We are studying many new projects in agriculture 4.0. Our sustainable development is based in three axes: environment, social, and governance. ASASGUA is committed to promoting the implementation and achievement of the goals and targets of the 2030 Agenda while advancing climate change mitigation and adaptation through integrated, innovative, sustainable water and energy solutions. We have advances in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda. Integrated watershed management, including forests in the high areas, riparian forests, biological corridors, and reforestation. We have planted since 2011 more than 8.8 million trees. That's around 7,000 hectares have been reforested, to which 860 will be added this year. Technologies and practices to optimize the use of water, both in the cultivation of sugarcane and in the production of sugar. We have the reuse of the water. Our goal is not to use any fresh water. We are going to use in the near future just the water of the cane. We have the dry cleaning sugarcane. Sometime before we cleaned the cane with water. Now we have a dry clean. We have a very efficient new irrigation systems. Senjicaña scientists developed the Senjiriegos. That's a very new and good irrigation system. More than 76% of water of the cane needs to grow is obtained from rain. Guatemalan sugar uses 47 less water than other sugar producing countries per ton of cane. The role of the sugar agroindustry as a provider of renewable, and sustainable electricity to Guatemala. 91% of the electricity used by the sugar agroindustry is from the bagasse of the cane. More than almost 30% of the electricity of the country is produced by the sugar mills with bagasse of cane. That's 1,784 gigawatts. The generation of renewable energy from biomass has prevented 4 million tons of CO2 from reaching the environment due to the reduction of fossil fuels to generate energy. 2022 guidelines were issued for the conservation of biodiversity in areas of interest for sugarcane. Our carbon footprint, we produce 0.36 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of sugar and 19.6 cubic meters per ton of sugar cane. What you see there is a fragment of a paper that shows the contributions of Guatemala's sugarcane agro-industry to the sustainable development goals on water and energy. And we are very honored that I think this is the only paper published by the United Nations Journal of the Sugarcane Agro-Industry. We understand very well our role as generators of opportunities and prosperity for millions of people in Guatemala. That's why we think we are more than sugar, we are energy for sustainable development.
Thanks for making the energy sweet with the sugarcane and make it sustainable. And certainly it's need a lot of efforts, specifically looking at from the synergies in trade-off with biodiversity in a country like Guatemala. And maybe it's good to see the regional perspective from Latin America. And I call you upon Ms. Camila to share with us the perspective from the Regional Commission, since you have the portfolio of the region. Over to you, Camila.
Good afternoon. Is this working? It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I would like to thank DESA, UNESCO for the invitation. I am here representing the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. A pleasure to greet also my fellow panelists today. So I would like to present to you the results of a paper that was published on the synergies between energy and water in Latin America and the Caribbean. It will be a very succinct presentation, and I invite you all to read the paper that was co-authored by the head of our Water and Energy Unit, Dr. Silvia Saraiva. So, let me see if I can use this. Oh, it's quite small. Latin America and the Caribbean is a region that contributes relatively little to global emissions. The region emits around 10% of the global greenhouse gases. However, there is an asymmetry because the region is severely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, mainly climate change disasters. In proportion, compared to the world, it's a region that produces relatively clean energy. Around 60% of the electricity generation in Latin America and the Caribbean is from renewable sources. In the world, 60% in the world is from renewable sources, and 73% in Latin America and the Caribbean are from renewable sources. The region, you can see in the left-hand side the proportion of renewables in the electricity matrix. As you can see, most countries in the region are very reliant on hydropower, which is the blue bar on the graph. On the right-hand side, you can see, on the other hand, the impacts that climate change will have on precipitation, on rain. And there you can see that one of the most important impacts of climate change in Latin America and the Caribbean are droughts. So this is a first direct link between energy security and water and climate change in the region. The interconnections, the degree of integration of the electric grids in Latin America and the Caribbean is an area of promising advancements and progress, especially in the field of transboundary water. You can see in the right-hand side the proportion of transboundary basins with interoperational agreements for water cooperation. In South America, interconnections are mainly based on hydroelectric power plants. The operating bilateral electric interconnection agreements are for Itaipu, which is a hydroelectric power plant, until recently one of the largest in the planet, between Paraguay and Brazil. Also, Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay share a treaty, an arrangement on emergency exchanges during droughts, which have become more intense and more frequent in the recent years. I'm going to move a bit faster due to the time constraints. And this is the case study that is addressed in the paper and that I would like to talk a bit more to you about. The paper covers the circular economy that can exist between SDG 6 for water and SDG 7 for energy. In particular, the paper taps into or looks into the potential for methane recovery from wastewater to produce power. According to the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, methane emitted worldwide needs to be reduced by a third by 2030, which is right around the corner, so that we can still keep on track for the 1.5% target. In Latin America and the Caribbean, methane emissions from wastewater account for 10% of the total methane emitted. Since 1990, methane emissions in Latin America have grown by 40% and are expected to grow without mitigation actions by another 19% by 2030. So the potential for wastewater treatment and the use of the sludge to capture the methane and then use this methane to produce renewable energy is the object of the paper. So the circular economy and the relation between water treatment or wastewater treatment and renewable energy. The paper found that there is an opportunity to incorporate mid-cities. There is relatively widespread of this technology in large cities, in Mexico and Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and others. But the large potential for growth or for the dissemination of these technologies lies in mid-size cities. It is estimated that this technology or mainstreaming these technologies in these 25 mid-size towns that were considered in the paper would require an investment around $250 million to adopt these circular economy principles. And it would generate a cost saving in the production of energy of 46.6 million US dollars. I'm going to move to our next slide that looks also into the tripod, into the three pillars of sustainable development, the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. ECLAC has been proposing the idea of a big push for sustainability. It's essentially an idea centered on mapping, identifying the strategic areas that could promote simultaneously benefits on the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. And so water and energy are one of these strategic areas that we have mapped. In terms of water, we estimate that with an increase of 1.3% of the annual GDP in terms of investments over the course of 10 years, we would be able to universalize the access to water and sanitation. These investments would produce very important benefits, including safe access to water, better health, reduced pollution, among others. In terms of the energy transition, we estimate that, let me go to the next slide. Oh, it's not on there. But we estimate a similar value of 1.3% of annual GDP that would be necessary over the next 10 years to increase renewable energy generation capacity to 80%, reducing CO2 emissions by 32% and creating 7 million green jobs. So these are the points that I wanted to bring, and I invite you all to follow our study and research for more information. Thank you.
Thanks for drawing the attention to how we can apply the principle of circular economy to help to address the synergies and the trade-off between the two sectors. And certainly, when we speak about the energy transition, it needs to be inclusive enough and just. And it needs to also look at to the dimension how energy can enable other sectors. But obviously, the examples of methane emissions and the recycling and what you did present, it's very good examples. I think it's good also to disseminate the paper and the research paper. What we do also in the Arab region, since we have also similar setting in terms of vulnerability from climate change and water scarcity. And it's good also the aspect of transboundary water management and across different countries in the region. And that's why it's good to also move to our next speaker from the Esquire region, Ms. Jessica Ubaid from Lebanon. From your perspective, the way you see the water energy nexus and specifically the specific case of Lebanon and the region. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Raja. So I have 5 points on this, on the water scarcity in Arab states and the region, and the food-water energy nexus, because water and energy nexus directly imply food security, wastewater, virtual water in the region, and hydropower. So first, we're a region that is highly vulnerable to water scarcity. So when we look into forecasts, the Arab states are expected to host 12 out of the 33 most water scarce countries in the world by 2030. That's a lot. So we need to do something about it, and we need to do something fast. And then we have the food-water energy nexus, because when we look into agricultural practices in most Arab states, they traditionally have relied on flooding, which consumes a lot of water, and just like flooding the fields of agriculture. And that's a major issue, especially for crops and the type of agriculture that we do have in the region. For example, in Egypt, we cultivate rice, which is uses a lot of water. So we need to change these practices and rely on more water-efficient practices, but this also imply having more energy-efficient practices. Why? Because when we look into how these water pumps are running as well, most of them are running on diesel generators, because agricultural areas happen to be so often in places that are far away from the grid. But it's not only diesel generators that are highly pollutant, but also highly expensive as well. But so often we've also seen that they rely on diesel trucks. So they have a truck and they have this pulley where it just rotate. By rotation, they just pump water. So it's high emissions, diesel trucks, diesel generators. When we look into the electrification rates in most Arab states, even in the states that we do have high electrification rates, it's not necessarily that it's high electrification. It's just that we can have grids, full grids, reaching all the country, but it could happen, for example, like in the case of Lebanon and Iraq, that this grid has a lot of power shortages in power supply, so this grid doesn't have electricity so often. And then renewable energy becomes a very critical, decentralized renewable energy, solar pumps and so, become very critical, not only for water provision, but also for food security. And then we get to the other issue, wastewater treatment as well. If you don't have reliable electricity, if energy is very expensive, then we don't have wastewater treatment. And so that's also, we need to have solar PV for wastewater treatment, and that's very important from a water provision perspective, sanitary health perspective, and also energy perspective, because as you mentioned, solar electricity is way cheaper now, especially in Arab states that have abundant solar energy resource. And then we look into virtual water, because everything we use and consume even if it's not just food and agriculture, uses a lot of water in production. My outfit, anything that we're using is using this indirect use of water, which we call virtual water. We're currently not accounting for virtual water content, but that's going to be very critical in the future when water is more scarce. And we need to account for that. And finally, we do have significant hydropower in the region, which is a significant share of renewable energy in the region. But what does that mean when we have water scarcity and drought? And we're already experiencing it, and we're seeing some countries that have several hydropower plants in peak summer, in peak demand in summer, in July and August. They're having now shortage of electricity because these hydropowers are just not performing when we need them. So a lot of challenges to account for, and we need a different kind of thinking. Raja, you always say integrated approach, and we need integrated approach for water, energy, but also food for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And maybe we link it also to the peace and increase partnerships as well as we speak. And since we did launch the policy note on Gaza, weaponization of the water, energy, food in Gaza. And we see an example where resilience in terms of renewable energy application, and you see how this, the absence of energy impacted the whole value chain and impacted other sectors. And that's why we say we need this kind of platforms in order to build good examples in a way how to address and build the resilience across sectors where energy also will remain as an enabler. And maybe we move to another example from also listen to another perspective with Mr. Luis Michal, the Executive President of UNELA.
Thank you very much, and thank you to DESA for the invitation to participate in this panel. We're going to talk about the catalyzing regional development and advancing global sustainability goals through the sugarcane and sugar beet agri-industry. What is UNALA? Who we are? We are the Sugar Association for Latin America, and there are 12 countries that form part of UNALA, starting with Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Peru. What we do, what's our purpose? First, we share information. We want to learn about the different experiences that each country has had, and to share with the different countries and promote this exchange of information and research of technologies and all the different experience that we have lived in the different countries. Second, representation in different forums to represent and tell the stories and the truth about the sugar sector. Unfortunately, when we don't participate and we let some people talk about our story, they tell some things that they don't have really scientific proof. So we want to participate in different forums and different places and to share the experience with arguments and with facts. Sustainability. We are sharing our best practices so we can learn from the success and from the failures of the different countries. So that will help all the sector in the Latin American sugar to be in a better standard. Communication. We want to facilitate the dialogue and promote communication between the different countries and different stakeholders. Our work are basically in 3 pillars. First is sustainability. In sustainability, as I was telling you before, we share the best practices that each country were implementing. Sugar and health. We have different programs. For example, there is a page that it's called Esto es Azúcar, and we are trying to put scientific evidence about the truth of sugar. something that happens these days on that we believe more in influencers than in science. So sometimes we have myths of sugar that they are not real. And in this type of pages, what we want to do is like tell scientific-based information about sugar. And renewable energies. In renewable energies, we are working and we are sharing experience of co-generating electricity from sugar bagasse and ethanol production. What are our commitments? First, we have the 2030 agenda. All of the different programs of the different countries we are working with, they are aligned with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. A climate change agenda, we have a commitment that we are working in different activities in order to mitigate the climate change, and biodiversity support. In some countries, we started making some inventories and some studies about biodiversity, and we need programs, as Mr. Vila was saying. In Guatemala, we have some reforestation programs that will help to preserve our biodiversity. So, what we represent as Latin American sugar producers. We represent 6.4 million jobs in Latin America. We represent 317,000 independent producers. We represent more than 52 million metric tons of sugar producers produced in Latin America, more than 32 million metric tons of sugar exported in Latin America, more than 11 million hectares harvest of sugar cane and sugar beet, more than 31 billion liters of ethanol produced in Latin America. Our sustainability in our operations, we produce more than 23,000 gigawatts per hour of co-generating from sugar bagasse, more than 31 billion liters produced of fuel ethanol SAF, that it's a sustainable aviation fuel. We also have advanced irrigation system, wastewater reuse, development of research and use of new technologies. This means that there are significant reduction of CO2 in emissions, CO2 emissions in all these countries of Latin America. So as sugar producers, we have a circular economy, because almost 100% of the crop is utilized in the cycle to produce sugar, to produce molasses, to produce ethanol, to produce organic fertilizers. So I'm going to put two examples of sustainable projects in Latin America, and in this case, I'm going to use first the NAMA in Costa Rica. Costa Rica, what is NAMA? NAMA is the National Appropriate Management Mitigation Action that was implemented in Costa Rica. It means for development countries to contribute to mitigation actions as part of their contribution to the global climate effort. It covers the formulation of sectoral objectives, mechanisms, and policies. It's designed as a part of a national climate strategy in low-emission development. So Costa Rica, to do this, they have started since 2021, sorry, and it has four steps. Actually, you have to run pilot plan implementation, then design of these plans, technical designs, and the concept node. So we start the concept node, then the technical design of the pilot plan, and the pilot plan implementation. In 2021, there was a training of the sectorial scope, a sugarcane NAMA design in Costa Rica, and then in 2022, the NAMA's operational design. So climate change mitigation and continues to SDGs, actually were reduction of nitrogen fertilizers, fossil fuels, harvest and applications of amendments. Here is the projected cumulative emissions to 2050 in different scenarios, how Costa Rica is going to reduce the carbon footprint. The other example is in Colombia with the Water Board. What is the Water Board? It's a program that was designed to implement strategies to improve water use, both in sugar cane production and sugar manufacturing producers, which has led to considerable reduction of water consumption in both links in the value chain, so also in sugar growth and sugar production. So what implemented strategies have they done? They have unified and efficient governance of the process, recirculation of water, improving efficiency of existing irrigation systems, the adoption of new and more efficient technologies, and irrigation personnel training, because sometimes when you train the people, you're going to have like less waste of water. So what they have obtained with these plans is a 50% reduction of water required for the sugarcane production process, a 32.6 reduction on the amount of water withdrawn from the source of outside the plants, and there is a continuous contribution to the SDGs 6, 12, and 13. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I believe your organization, since it's regional, you have a lot of opportunities to reverse knowledge between the countries, and specifically on the sugar cane. Maybe we move to the Mediterranean. And Spain and the Mediterranean, together with the Maghreb countries, have the issue of water scarcity. And it's, I may say that Spain is a good example in a way that how they manage properly the water energy nexus, given also the water scarcity issue. Over to you. We have with us, Mr. Fernando, as I presented from Canal de Isabel too. So if you just present the case of your country and your institution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for having the opportunity to be in this incredible amount of good panelists. And I have to show, well, I want to show something related with the adaptation to the water scarcity, because we have good news for everyone. We have the experience of more than 172 years fighting against scarcity. So then we have some ideas that can be useful for you all. And I want to share these things. For the people that don't know really where we are in the middle of space, just in the middle of space. We are a region like a triangle in the middle of Spain. And we have, this is our community. And as you can see, we have a really, okay, it doesn't work, the laser. So we have a mountains just in the west of our community, and these mountains prevent the rain to fall in the moderate area. Then we have a climate very easy to say just in 3 letters. Our climate is dry. So, for example, last big draw that we had in 2000 or 2005, we received an income in our reservoirs of 233 cubic hectometers in a year, and the water demand in the region was, in 2005, 610 cubic hectometers. Then imagine how difficult it is to supply people when you don't have really water in your reservoir. But it's something that happens very, very commonly, it's very normal. For example, last year we had 465 cubic hectometers, but we consume for almost 500 cubic hectometers. Then imagine how to deal with this irregular regime of rain. So some years we have like 1,000 income of water in our reservoirs, and sometimes we have 200 cubic hectometers in our reservoirs. So, and the water demand is always pretty much the same. Pretty much the same, 500 cubic hectometers per year. Then almost 50% of the year we have less water than the people demand from us. So, and the things is increasing as a problem, because in the past, which is in the pink color, in the past we increased like 1 million people in 15 years. But the next 15 years, our projections assume that Madrid will grow by more than 1 million inhabitants. So if you see in this graph, you can see 3 important issues. The blue line is the rainfall, the precipitations, as an income of water in our reservoirs. As you see, are progressive decreasing because climate change. And the gray line is the population supplied by canal that is growing. It's growing. Every year growth and growth. And the good news is that from 2005, as you see, the yellow curve, which is the demand side, I mean the demand of water, we get to decrease it. So imagine, we have seen a huge increase in population in Madrid, more than 40% from 2005. And under this complex situation, we have managed to reduce capita consumption by 34%. And the problem is that this never ends. We must continue reducing consumption, and it's not always true that if you have energy, you will have water, or if you have water, you will have energy. That's not true. For example, in the middle of Spain, we don't have really a big river. And if we don't have a big river, where is the water? So we don't have enough water to transform into fresh water, like, for example, here in Dubai you can do. Today, the lack of enough and constant water supply would be incompatible with the development of the society. So what kind of thing we can do if we don't have water? We can do really 5 things, and we are doing 5 things. First is increase water incomes. Really, believe me, we are working in it every day. The other thing you can do from the offer perspective, or the offer side, is to change drinking water for reduced water. That's all. And from the demand side, you can do 3 things. A network that consumes less water, being less leaks in your network, less real losses of water. The 4th thing you can do is to improve the education of people, greater citizen awareness. And the 5th thing you can do is to set or establish a water price structure focused on encouraging savings. So in terms of change drinking water for reduced water, here's the evolution of the consumption of reused or regenerated water or reclaimed water the last years. So, of course, reused water is part of the solution. With an investment of 500 million euros, we got 17 cubic hectometers per year, and we consume 500 hectometers. Then imagine the cost of a single hectometer of reused water. We need to work more in convince clients that they need to use reclaimed water. And also we need in Europe at least more laws and more regulations to increase the water consumption of our clients. So the other thing we do is to build a network or maintain a network that consumes less water. Is the other thing that we can do. And we are proud to show this graph. As you see, this is in Spain. There are official national data figures. And you see that Madrid, which is in red, has less than 4% of losses. This is something incredible, believe me. And in Spain, around 50% of the water we introduce in the network is lost by leaks, and in many places even 20% of the water. So we are leader with the lowest real network losses. We have very low rates of network breaks. We have high levels of fraud detection. Just to maintain this level is a challenge. And the other thing we need to do is to save water. So imagine we have really a lot of programs of saving water. We have a lot of prize in our showcases, but believe me as well, awareness has a limit. People get tired of the messages. We need to work being more imaginative every year. It's like a fight, because it's not easy to convince people to save water. So Humphrey Bogart said, we'll always have tariffs. So I think tariffs is the other way, or the way that you can use to educate people, to increase the awareness of reducing water consumption. We have this amazing graph. Not many companies in the world wants to show this kind of graphs, but I want to share you how we did in the past using tariffs as the healthy method or way to send messages to your client, especially when you have a progressive tariff framework. When we increase these progressive tariffs, we get the decrease of the people that consume more water, as you see in the graph. The people that consume more than 100 cubic meters per month decrease almost 36% if you implement a sound tariffs, progressive tariff in your framework. So, and the other thing I want to say is that if you want to know more about our company and what we do, reducing consumption with this methodology or getting more water from nowhere, please come to the second Global Symposium on Sustainable Water and Energy Solutions that we'll do in June 2034 in Madrid. Thank you very much.
I think there's also in Guatemala, I think, for the global network. And yeah, certainly the entry point from the water sector give a different perspective, since sometimes it's always located from the energy perspective, but then when you have the objective to save on water while also addressing the energy needs, I think the example of Canada Isabel was and still an excellent example to follow. And each time we have a presentation on the solutions that your organization, your company is handling. I think we may not have time to take questions. Maybe we just take one question, if possible, from the audience, although I do have, but because my question was related to, before giving to Minoru to close the session, and the way forward for the network, since I believe we did have presentation from the regional perspective that show when presented from regional commission in a way that there is a huge potential, both from a knowledge product, but also policy tools, and at the same time experiences from the companies and from the commitment that organizations and companies have submitted and committed and are I would say progressing in a way that looks from the water or energy and the intelligence of both. And I think the examples and the business models and also the case studies that were and still available at the Water Energy Solution Network led by DESA Secretariat, I think it's good a platform that if for those who are participating here to have access to this in order to more learn how practically we can make the water energy nexus and the linkage is more sustainable, but also see it from cross-cutting sectors. With that, I close this, and I would like to call upon Mr. Minoru Takada. He's the team leader in sustainable energy at the UN DESA. Minoru, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the coming over here. I hope that you enjoy the conversation. This sort of nexus between energy and the water, I think exemplify the true spirit of SDGs. If we do well, you mentioned, if we do well, really we can make tremendous progress toward many parts of the SDGs. And of course, these are some of the root causes which are causing the climate crisis. So I think, that we have to strengthen our actions, and thanks to everybody's effort, we started gathering some of the sort of good evidences. And I think Radia is correct. Gathering evidences is one thing, but I think we need to get on the ground to be making it practical. This needs to be really made available to the policymakers and practitioners so that we will see more sort of, on the practical operational, the application of those good practices. This is where we have to strengthen. That means that we do need a lot more energy and members to come together. That is why we are working together with the other colleagues and the Canal colleagues to bring everybody together. And next year we are even more sort of scaling up this sort of the gathering, and then hopefully that many of you will be able to join together, and then try to sort of bring sustainable integrated solutions to make SDGs functions from water and energy perspective and address climate changes. So today, thank you very much on behalf of UN DESA, on behalf of the Sustainable Global Water and Energy Solutions Network. We thank you very much for your participations. And many of you sort of heard about this sort of, the articles, which many of you contributed, are actually available on the UN's website for this journal, the Natural Resources Forum, so for free download. So hopefully that you'll be able to look at these resources as well. With this one, I would like to close this conversation. So thank you very much. We look forward to engaging further. Bye-bye.